Truthful words stand the test of time, but lies are soon exposed. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first episode of the PANOVIEW on June 30th, 2021. My name is Rika. Today, we're going to talk about the 20th movement currently happening in China, 躺平, in other words, lying flat. Let's start our journey with this painting by the famous Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh, Noon Rest from Work. Finished in 1890, it is now in Musée d'Orsay in Paris, France. The painting depicts a peasant couple taking a break from their afternoon work. Recently, the masterpiece has made quite a splash on Chinese social media. Mr. Van Gogh himself would have never imagined one day his painting could garner so much attention in China, and for such a bizarre reason. It is not that classic oil paintings are so popular among the common folks, rather a tactic the smart netizens designed to spread the message to Defiance and fast widely while waiting invade the media's censorship. Because normally classic paintings are not on the radar of CCP's censorship machine. The Chinese netizens even came up with a nickname for it, lying flat. So, why on earth does this painting resonate with so many young people in China? The keywords are lying flat, which is the center of our in-depth analysis today. Lying flat refers to the emergent phenomena that the young Chinese workers who are normally driven and industrials now rather throw in the towel and lie flat. The reasons behind, just to name a few, the 996 backbreaking hours working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily, 6 days a week, the exorbitant and ever-increasing housing prices, the rising costs for all goods and merchandise, and of course, the astonishing high price tags for getting married, medical care, and education. And if this is not enough, the vicious competition for peers within the same industry is reaching the point of a pressure cooker. Hence, the final coping mechanism is kicking in. People now choose not to work, or just do the minimum to get by. This is paired up with reducing their material consumptions to the lowest possible. For example, as long as they can manage to put 3 meals on the table, then be it. There's no more desire for house hunting, car buying, marriage planning, kids bearing, social mingling, and traveling. Wait a second, what? This has gotten the Chinese Communist Party very nervous. No way, this cannot go on, the party said. If you don't buy up realistics, whom else would I sell them to? If you don't keep reproducing new babies, from whom would I reap leaks in the future? Well, why would the Chinese Communist Party become so nervous? Let's see why lying flat has become a hot button for the CCP. So as the internet term lying flat becomes more popular, its importance has won the status of ology in the heart of the netizens. So lying flatology is deemed a philosophy of living of which a person gives up completely on working, and he or she will let go of the lifestyle that is filled with arduous work and constant worries, so much so that it has taken a toll on one's health and family life. By making a conscious choice, the lying flat to proactively lower his desires and consumptions to a bare minimum. More and more worker bees now are adopting this philosophy of living. So the term of lying flatology originated from a post on the Chinese social media column called Population Bar. The post raised this refreshing idea of lying flat means justice, which lends a solution for countless miserable worker bees who are on the brink of collapse. The original poster claimed he has hardly worked in the past 2 years, living with minimal needs or demands. While maintaining his physical health, he has devoted quite a lot of time on philosophical thinking. So many may wonder, isn't that what we call a Buddhist lifestyle? How come a young lad in his prime all of a sudden turns into subscribing to such a set lifestyle? Well, to explain this, I have to introduce the next term, inner row. Apart from the high pressure from work in order to keep up with the high living costs, another important push which sends many young Chinese join the lying flat crowd is inner row. Inner row here has the exact characters of involution in Chinese. However, it is not to be confused with involution, a sociological term that refers to the stagnation in development of social and cultural patterns and failure in transforming into another more advanced pattern. In the current context, the term inner row has taken a semantic turn and is synonymous with the extremely intense, malicious, and mutually harmful competition within the industry. Just how fierce and vicious can this self-destructing competition be? Let's take a look at the slogan on the wall of the company. Be sure to starve your peer competitors to death, even if it means you may have to exhaust yourself first. OMG. Are we still talking about a competitive work scenario or a hostile combat zone? This practically advocates that every day, the moment you step into the office, you need to be prepared to devote yourself completely to the point that you might have to make the ultimate sacrifice. Of course, the CCP is very good at using the so-called chicken soup to soothe the young people's minds, pushing them into this work till you drop quicksand deeper and deeper, getting them sucked into the invisible black hole of this toxic CCP's ideology. Next, let's look at the pearls of inner row. Many people feel they are like those gyroscopes being whipped to spin incessantly. The only difference is that instead of being whipped by others, they are the self-whipping version. In China, office workers are no stranger to the notion of 996-007, especially for the internet industry. 007, mind you, not the charming British spy of 007, rather the grueling work shift of from 0 a.m. to 0 a.m. and 7 days a week. Care to guess what 996 means? That is working from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. and 6 days a week. If one guy is already pulling a 996, the next guy who wants to outmatch that can only do so by pulling a 007. Sadly, all this drives to only one outcome. The loser loses miserably, and the winner wins pathetically. In the end, both parties lose. No one wins. So how can a young person sustain one's committing to 996 mode? Well, obviously, at any minute, this human spinning gyroscope could feel so ill that he or she needs to be sent straight to ICU. Hence, the term 996 ICU is born. It practically implies trading one's health and life in exchange for limited money. Well, look on the brighter side. The working quote-unquote slaves have not completely lost their sense of humor. This excruciating work mode is deemed very normal in the eyes of none other than the internet tycoon Jack Ma. It is revealed that in an Alibaba internal meeting, he told it, "Consider working the 996 a great blessing. Many people would dream to work for 996 policy company, but they don't even have such opportunity." Let's take a look.
阿里巴巴人大家都讲阿里巴巴的口碑不太好，我们每天加班到12个小时是非常正常。
That was Jack Ma a few years back. How is the life of the tycoon in communist China today? And where is he now?
就跟马云谈话里边说，马云啊，先给你澄清几个问题啊。你能发展到今天是谁让你发展的呀？马云说是我们的员工。张嘴，没共产党的改革开放，怎么有你马云？啊，你早活100年前大清朝把你弄死了，未来100年你也没有你活的地方。张嘴，先认识清楚，没党没有马云。你问问马云有这事儿没有？啊，审判的人跟我说，这马云最后是傻了。是，一切都是没有党不行啊。第二个就告诉他，马云。你的钱是哪来的？都是党的啊，都是党的，放他妈屁！你这钱是都是人民的，啊，人民的钱放在你那儿去，怎么就成你马云的了呢？ 怎么成你阿里巴巴了呢？张嘴！我操，马云又傻了，原来这钱是人民的，是人民的，是人民的。第三，你到处全世界演讲代表中国人民党和国家领导人在哪儿呢？你有野心吗？是不是想从政还搞什么大学马云说没有，还没有你想搞大学干什么？你不是要改变民心吗？你跟外国领导人一见面就谈中国领导人的普遍教育水平很低，是不是就因为你当过老师你看共产党都给记着呢，这大嘴巴给扇的，最后马云是磕头也不行，是站着也不行，跪着也不行。这马云是真惨，我是。这些的老百姓嘛，那是选择躺平。这马云在里边待着是站着挨揍，跪着你跪的姿势不对，躺平不行。
Chinese people like to follow the teachings of Confucianism. One of the classical works has it, the great learning Daxue says, only when you feel calm and collected, you may feel you have peace of mind. With peace of mind, you may only be able to think carefully and clearly. Only thinking carefully and clearly may you achieve many great thoughts. But what does the ruling regime, the CCP, have in store for the people? Definitely not calm, not peace of mind. This way, the working slaves will never get the luxury of time and energy to think carefully and clearly for themselves. Imagine if the commoners had the energy to think clearly, how could the CCP be able to control the hundreds of millions of minds by telling lies after lies, even with its draconian apparatus in place? And how would they be able to keep lying without being challenged or countered? In order to squeeze every drop of the profits possible out of the Chinese people, the CCP not only just targets at the corporate types. Its insatiable appetite demands the same from people from all walks of life, regardless they're from within the system or outside the system, young or old, rich or poor. No one is spared. No one can escape. For the corporate type, the system has the 996 to keep you in check. But what about the in the system folks, aka the public servants? How are they being managed by the CCP? The most recent and yet most ubiquitous version in the disguise of utilizing advanced technology, a digital app called Learn About Strong Nation has gone off the chart. People have been bombarded by carrots and sticks to install it, to use it. For those in the system employees, it is mandatory. The true purpose is to indoctrinate and to keep an eye on everyone. One stone, two birds, indeed. So, front cover of the Learn About Strong Nation app showing by Central Propaganda Department of CCP, the great launch of the online learning platform starting January 1st, 2019. In Mao's time, there was this little red book which contains quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong published in more than 1 billion copies and made virtually mandatory for each person to own and carry during the Cultural Revolution era. The Learn About Strong Nation app is today's little red book. The party members and cadres are required to study every day. It takes quite some time for one to finish the study quota in order to gain the required points. More interestingly, a German network security company, Cure53, analyzed the app and found that the app has a backdoor, which is a security vulnerability that allows super user access to the user's entire device. This means via this app, the CCP is so conveniently in control of the cell phone data that belongs to hundreds of millions of users. The little red book is also a big brother. So after talking about CCP's tactics in controlling the working force, let's take a look at this 360-degree brainwash for kids. A post under the title of a red color weekend reads, a colleague complained about his or her daily life range from helping kids with overloaded homework to actively learning the CCP's propaganda to watching a movie featuring a CCP promotional figure and writing commentary afterwards. And no, the part of writing commentary is not self-driven, but per employer's requirement. For China's National Radio and Television Administration official website, the administration requires that every program, including news, documentaries, and even cartoon programs must orient from the party's political principles, strictly carry out the responsibilities of promoting the CCP's ideology, and follow the CCP's management requirements throughout all aspects of the propaganda system, along the full length of the production lines. To help promote the narratives, some catchphrases have emerged, such as this brainwashing animation video, that year, that rabbit, and those stories. Let's take a look.
生是种花家的人，死是种花家的死人。谁搞台独，我搞他脑袋！再给老子一块砖，老子再去三八线上浪一回。
All these lines sound just like the wolf warriors howling, and yet the attempt of disguising them as peace-loving, self-righteous type of flower growers are apparent too. So what about those retirees? Will they get up easy? Think again. Just because you're not tied up by office work, you are not to be spared to allow more leisure time to think. For instance, Shanghai rolled out the strangest garbage sorting campaign starting July 1st, 2019. The guidelines were so complex and confusing that the local residents complained that it was impossible to classify garbage correctly. For instance, while the soiled baby diapers belong to dry garbage, shells of snack seeds belong to the wet, such as walnut shells, peanut shells. Another example, chicken bones are considered wet garbage, but large pork bones are considered dry. According to DW.com, the Voice of Germany's report, on the first day of mandatory garbage sorting in Shanghai, the city deployed 3,600 enforcement officers to inspect a total of more than 4,000 locations, including residential neighborhoods, hotels, and businesses. At the end of the day, a whopping 600 plus tickets were issued. The most repeated words from the campaign were, "What kind of garbage are you?" often asked by the volunteers on site. Of course, they meant, "What kind of garbage do you have?" The residents joked with each other with the meaning. After all, what medicine could heal better than a line of self-depreciating humor? Now, let's take a look at the garbage sorting instruction. Feels like a walk back to high school chemistry class, right? So it reads, do you know how to handle the leftover of milk tea for the purpose of garbage sorting? Step 1, first pour the leftover of milk tea into the downspout. Step 2, dispose of pearls, fruit pulp, and other residuals into the wet garbage. Step 3, throw the cups and straws into the dry garbage. And step 4, based on the type, if the teacup has a plastic lid, it is considered recyclable. After seeing this step-by-step diagram, many milk tea fans started to vent. I'd just call it quits. Would you happy if I just quit for good? If you think garbage sorting is too cumbersome to bear with, wait till you learn about the steps of dispose of garbage. On the first day of garbage sorting policy started to roll out, disposing of garbage was almost like a serious mission with potential severe consequences. So on site, a few middle-aged women volunteers were deployed. Don't be surprised if they ask you, what kind of garbage are you? Standing by were people sent by the neighborhood committee supervising with 1 or 2 policemen monitoring the entire site. The residents almost felt flattered to be met with such a high-end treatment. Well, the story just doesn't end here. Take a quick look at around the 8 classification garbage bin site, which is equipped with a real-time surveillance system. The residents need to swipe their digitalized cards to open the bin. In case someone misplaced the trash, the management staff sitting in the control room could link up the timestamp of the swipe with the surveillance images and roughly determine who the offenders were. Next, some enforcement personnel will follow up with the offenders, and for sure, a good lecture will be given. What a doubting task this garbage disposal mission is, enough to drive people crazy. Let's just be honest. Garbage sorting could very much help protect the environment and conserve resources. We support garbage we support garbage sorting within reasonable limits, but we're against the type of lack of logic and rule-confusing sorting. On the surface, it is for the sake of environmental protection, but in a stealth way, it is to take up your time and energy and keep you under control and make you more obedient. Would you know how the sorted garbage is really being processed? Let's see.
分好类垃圾还是倒在一个垃圾车里面。
这个是上海倡导的垃圾分类啊，到时候万物归一啊，不可放弃，无疾而终的啥政策，所有的垃圾一道倒进去，到最后呢，到后台不是一样啊，愚民项目。
Yes. All types of the pre-sorted garbage are dumped into one track, actually. What a waste of time and energy. What the CCP cares about is not the environment, but to keep the people under control. In order to achieve this goal, what book could serve better than the book of Lord Shang? Actually, since its inception about 100 years ago, the CCP's Politburos have always studied this book thoroughly and integrated it into their ruling essence of Shang's teaching, which is the 5 strategies of controlling the people. It's saying, number 1, unifying people's thoughts, meaning that assimilating the people's thoughts to enforce a sheep mentality. Number 2, weakening the people, and it's saying that the strength of the country is reliant on the debility of the people. Number 3, tiring the people, troubling the people by creating endless and unnecessary problems, occupying the people with arduous work to the point where they become overtly exhausted or too busy to worry about other issues around them. Number 4, humiliating the people. People should be trained to have no self-esteem or self-confidence. Regular citizens should be encouraged to expose or report others to ensure they live in constant fear. And number 5, impoverishing the people. Aside from daily necessities, the government would deprive from the people any surplus of wealth and money, either by creating inflation or aggressively printing money. Poverty eventually stifles ambition. And one last important sentence. Should the above 5 strategies all fail, just kill the ones who are considered non-conformists or offenders. Aren't they just identical to the way the CCP regime has been using to rule the country? The CCP is an organization that consists of evil thieves acting like a ruthless mafia, and it has no moral boundaries. By taking a page from a book of Lord Shang, the CCP has made hundreds of millions of common folk harder and harder to sustain a living. It's high time for some young Chinese to finally spit out enough and to decide lie flat as an unusual way to defense against the CCP. It is particularly inspiring given the Chinese people have been brainwashed for decades and are not normally known for their rebellious sides. If everyone takes the action to lie flat, it will reduce its domestic consumptions and hence the liquidity of goods, which could create a direct setback for the CCP's economy. If they lie flat continuously, they may cause some severe consequences, such as reducing the overall population, aging, and slumping real estate markets. And those will trigger even a bigger economical and financial crisis. When Chinese are really taking the action to lie flat, they will ruin the most important sectors that the CCP has been relying to survive its regime: pension, education, and medical. And that is the real reason of why the CCP is so scared of the movement. Now, let's take a walk down the history lane. Here are a few non-violence movements that are enlightening. First is the Mahatma Gandhi, which is the Indian independence movement. Second is Dr. Martin Luther King, the African-American civil rights movement. And third, the most recent one, the Hong Kong anti-extradition law movement. So nowadays, lying flat is starting to gain traction among the young Chinese people. While being non-violent, it is still possible to show resistance to the draconian regime and make a positive contribution to their future, both spiritual-wise and financial-wise. The leader of the whistleblower movement, Mr. Miles Guo, made some exciting remarks about it, encouraging the mainlanders to lie flat. Furthermore, he shared his vision about inventing the lying flat coins and turning it into lying flat movement. Let those shameless kleptocrats in Zhounan pit feel the chill down their spines.
让这个躺平这件事情成为一个爆料革命的一个起点，因为这些人呢，跪着没有粮食，没有钱了。我们让他感觉到战争的幸福，强他的脖子，强他的这个脊椎，啊，怎么办呢？我正想准备发展一种叫躺平币。未来我们有个方式，只要你在摄像在 GTV， 在直播你一天躺平了8小时白天时间，啊，你将获得多少躺平币？一个躺平币是什么情况？你只要拿手机下载这个软件，你就得到躺平币。这个躺平币在海外，你马上会换成现金。这个躺平币也有20%黄金的挂钩。啊，我们也会让它在市场流通啊，在市场流通，啊，谁爱买就买，不买拉倒呗，是吧？比如说我们定价1块钱，我们就会拿相等的2%现金买2%的黄金搁那儿，让躺平者有功劳，躺平者有钱赚，躺平者有钱有希望，还是国际的希望，安全的希望。如果躺平币涨了钱了，涨了收入大值了，那厉害了。如果中国有2亿人去躺平啊，然后在 GTV 的视频上显示了它。我一天就给2亿个躺平币，10天20亿个，1个月600亿个躺平币，啊，我就要半年就行了，半年，啊，半年1亿人躺平，啊，3600亿的躺平币，3600亿，1块钱一个就是3600亿美元，啊，10块钱一个就是3.6万亿美元，1块钱一个是现实的，1块钱一个我们是未来能筹到这个钱。3600亿美元，让上亿的人躺平在中国大地，啊，我们还要分出来3、6、9等啊。开火车的一天可能5个币，开飞机的可能是10个币。这2天中国的这个航空大罢工啊，很多这个所谓的机长啊机组的组长啊都罢工了，飞机都飞不了了，啊，这不叫罢工，这叫躺平，啊。如果是啊搞什么屏保小组的呀，是吧？灭暴小组的也给他多一点嘛，对吧？我算算，5000亿个币够了，啊，5000亿个躺平币，啊，定义为5000亿美元，1000亿美元去买黄金，把黄金先买了以后存在了某个瑞士啊、英国的某个央行，让大家看着你的躺币的连接的黄金在那儿呢，在市场上流通。如果它涨100块钱，你就赚了，那赚大了是吧？要涨10块钱就赚大了啊！我们要把这个躺平币变成躺平的一场运动，叫躺平运。
另外一个战友说那个躺平币，咱简称叫躺币啊，就是只要国内年轻人躺在那块儿，既然你不能站着，你也不能跪着啊，你也不要在那块儿说坐在那儿被人家剥削啊，就躺平吧。躺平币大家很关心啊，我向大家再次说一下，躺平币一定会发生的啊，这需要一点时间。我鸡哥也不是神，是吧？
Needless to say, under the repressive rule of this evil Chinese Communist Party, it is dangerous and imprudent to confront and fight them head on. So it'd be better to fight smart, that is, to lie flat. For the people blocked behind the Great Firewall, aka the mainlanders, some netizens summed up these useful tips for staying healthy and lying flat. Number 1, refuse to get the vaccine jabs, as the CCP lab-made vaccines are more harmful than useful. Number 2, stop working overtime. Number 3, stop watching the CCTV's news programs. Number 4, stop signing up for those money-wasting tutoring classes for kids. And number 5, if you feel safe enough, download GTV and Gather to learn more about lying flat coins. More updates will come soon. For our brothers in arms and our friends living overseas, in the spirit of promoting lying flat, here are some suggestions. Avoid using WeChat as it is CCP's propaganda machine, using direct discretion when buying products made in China. Download GTV and Gather to keep up with the current affairs. Dear whistleblower movement brothers in arms, dear friends, did you try lying flat today? Do you have any observations, opinions, and suggestions on lying flat? Your thoughts and comments are most welcome. Please share with us and we may select a few to share in our next program. And if you'd like to contribute your time and expertise in whistleblower movement, please consider joining us at most Himalaya farms as volunteers by staying hand in hand, keeping each other well informed, inspired, and energized. Let's take down the CCP together. This concludes our show for today. Our show is simultaneously live on both GTV and YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel at GTV Lover. If you would like to get more insightful information, please subscribe GTV Lover at G News as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.